How does a man really feel when he's inside you? See, the key is it's not really about the climax or any sort of pleasure. It's really about the whirlwind of emotions that men feel leading up to being inside you and afterwards being inside you that they never in a million years will admit to you. I'm going to warn you, in this show, I'm going to be very graphic and very detailed about the things that goes through a man's mind that he would never want you to know. And it's exactly what I'm going to be exposing today on this show. So listen up, and by the end of the show, you'll be able to understand and know what's going on in a man's mind when he's inside you even better than he does. So I have our first point written out here for us already, so we can kind of understand and jump right into it. So we're going to start off with desire. And I want to kind of paint you a picture of how desire works, because it doesn't work in the way that you're imagining it works, okay? We have this triangle of emotion and validation. Very strange, but let me explain this to you. So what you need to understand is men have a mirror, okay? When they look into the mirror, the psychological mirror, the spiritual mirror, they see themselves. They build an identity of who they are through what they see in this mirror, okay? Now, the interesting part about this mirror is that this mirror is actually not controlled by him or what he's doing. This mirror is controlled by you and how you respond to that man. See, between your actions, your responses, whether you sleep with him, you don't, whether you choose him, whether you don't, whether you allow him to be with you and give him access to yourself, to give him access to you, or don't, that's going to create a lot of validation within him, okay? That validation, in turn, is going to help him build his identity through your validation. When you accept him, right, you then give him validation, you give him validation, he builds this mirror of understanding who he is through that validation. Let me give you an even better example of that in the real world, right? If I were to say, I'm a ladies' man, I tell my boys, I tell other people, my family, yeah, I'm a ladies' man. That's just the personality I have. The women, they attracted to me, they're all up on me, they're always into me. What am I really basing that identity on? I'm not basing it on what I think of myself. I'm basing it on what other women think of me based on how they respond to me. So when we start off with desire, even before I actually sleep with you, I'm desiring you, not even in the sense of, hey, I need pleasure. I'm desiring the acceptance from you. And I'm also desiring the validation that I'll receive from you when I finally do sleep with you, because that's going to be a confirmation of my own value, right? And my own desirability as a man. And I'm always going to be pursuing, which we'll talk about pursuit in a little bit. I'm always going to be pursuing that validation because it's tied to what I believe about myself. Okay? Let's hop into our next point here. Are we all on the same page so far? Makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. So, after we get through desire, we're still leading up to what it's going to feel like and what I'm going to be going through. I say me, but I mean the collective, like me, I, okay? Like us as men. What I'm going to be going through when I actually am inside you, okay? Then we have pursuit, okay? So, we'll draw this like this. We'll have the man down here, smiling, whatever type of smile that is. And we'll call this a web of observation, okay? So we'll say he's observing here, okay? And this observation is you. Now, in the process of me pursuing, right? I guess we could title the next point right first. We'll title it Pursuit. When I'm pursuing you, I'm always looking for clues in order to confirm that validation, right? I need that validation from you in order to build my identity, right? So there's certain things that I'm going to use along the way in order to confirm that, hey, you like me, you accept me, you validate me, even outside and before I actually sleep with you. those things can come in a physical sense. They can also come in your words, right? So when you say things like, I like you, that validates me. When you say things like, I need you, that validates me. Also, when you do things like, and we're going to get a little bit graphic here, right? If we're doing something sexual and you moan, that's also going to validate me, because that's going to express to me that you're enjoying this, you like being here, that this experience is good for you, and I'm also doing my job as a man. Not just that I'm doing my job, but also this is going to sound weird, conquering you. We're going to talk about this really deep-rooted hunting mindset in a little bit as well, right? And also, even in your touch and your gaze, all of these things I'm pursuing in the process of pursuing you and eventually sleeping with you, because I'm using these things to confirm my belief that you have accepted me, that you have validated me through the fact that you are allowing me to have access to you. I always say the word access because access is supposed to encompass everything that is you and your being. So not just what's in between your legs, but also your mind, also your energy, also your spirit, also your attention, your entire being. I want to have access to. You're the only one with the keys to give me that validation and ensure to me that I actually have had full access to your being, okay? So now that we talk about pursuit, right? Through the idea of what it is that I'll look for in order to validate me, now let's really get to what's going on when I'm inside you, when a man is inside you, okay? Because you have to understand what things are building up to, okay? So then, we're actually going to start off with the most strange emotion you could possibly think of when you're thinking of a guy sleeping with you. This is the best way for me to draw this. Okay? Let me do this. Okay, trust me, chat, this will make sense to you afterwards. And we'll draw them like that. And we'll draw this guy like that. Okay, so there is an inherent fear that men have when they're inside you. Now, they might not necessarily express this fear, but this fear exists. Remember how I talked about earlier with the desire to be validated and to be accepted by you, because you hold the keys, you hold the cards. You control how I see my own identity. I can't see myself as a valuable man and then I don't get accepted or I don't get access to women. You see how powerful you are in that scenario. Now, as it relates to identity, even when I'm inside you, I'm still looking for that validation even in other ways. I also have a fear of rejection even throughout the process of me pursuing you. So leading up to my initial desire for you and my initial desire to be validated by you, and in the process of my pursuit of you, I'm constantly in a state of psychological fear. Now, I don't mean fear in the sense that like you're going to hit me or you're going to push me off a cliff or something like that. I'm talking about the psychological fear of what if I do pursue her and she communicates to me, whether in the fact of her words that she doesn't want me, rejecting me, not giving me her number, not wanting to talk to me, not texting me back, or in the sense of her actions, meaning when we're finally in the act, she doesn't seem to be enjoying herself. Maybe she looks uncomfortable. Maybe she's like just not into it. She's out of it, right? I have fear that when I try to validate myself through you in the act of sleeping with you, I'll actually realize that I'm not as amazing as I think I am, which will then in turn change my identity, right? Remember, because identity is so important. The identity that I build or I'm building of myself and who I am in relation to how women respond to me, that will be shattered. Because if I'm building my identity as, oh, I'm a ladies' man, the women love me, the women are attracted to me because I'm such a valuable, resourceful, useful man, and then you don't respond to me in the way that a woman would respond to a man who is valuable, useful, and resourceful, now my identity is crushed, or at least it has to be adjusted to fit and understand this new narrative. Also, this fear comes from, and the reason that I drew this, is that maybe the real reason that you aren't responding to me in the way that I would hope you would respond to me in the act of us being so intimate, I fear that there might be, unfortunately, a bigger, stronger, smarter, more capable man, okay? I have this deep-rooted fear that in the process of building my identity, that I'm him, as the kids say, that I'll realize through your response to me that I'm actually not him. That someone else exists in your life, in your history, in your past, or just in general, that is bigger, stronger, smarter, and more capable than me. This inherent fear is always kind of cycling through the back of my mind. So as I'm pursuing you and I'm saying things to you and I'm interacting with you, I'm hoping to validate myself in the fact that I am this person. I want to be this guy in your life because I want you to need me, which we're going to talk about in a little bit as well. I need you to need me in order to validate myself. So I fear the fact that in the process of me validating myself, that you will not need me because there is someone better than me, whether it be in the way that you say it, or the way that you act or respond during the act of actually us being together and being intimate together, or in the way you act and respond afterwards. I'm always looking and gauging your responses to me to gauge what my value is to myself, okay? Now, we're going to talk about another concept as well, which is quite interesting and quite fascinating. And I'm going to do this and ask you guys a question. So this here is what I call and describe as the spin, okay? So let's think about this. I'm going to draw two, we can call them notebooks. So we have spin here, and we have reality here, okay? So let's say I'm going to write these two things down, and then we'll discuss. Oops. I should have put the opposite here. So we'll write down here, you don't need me. You do need me. Okay? So the reason I want to discuss what I'll describe as the spin is because this is something that guys won't explain it to you, but you'll experience it through his actions towards you. You might be a little bit confused because you might be like, where is this stemming from? But I'm gonna explain to you exactly where this is stemming from. What I call the spin is when guys will sleep with you, and in the process of sleeping with you, they might realize that this didn't go how I thought it would go. I didn't get the response from you that I thought I would get. It doesn't seem like this was really pleasurable for you. You seem to be a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe I was smaller than you were anticipating. Maybe it just overall wasn't as enjoyable. But then remember, I have to build an identity around how you respond to me, right? And if I'm going to build an identity around how you respond to me, I kind of need you to respond in a particular way in order for my identity to be what I want it to be, which is that I'm the man, I'm the biggest, strongest, most capable hunter alive. We don't hunt deer anymore, but we still have this desire to feel like the biggest, strongest, most capable hunter in all of the land. Because back when we were cavemen, the biggest, strongest, most capable hunters were the highest priority, I guess, right? Or the highest ranking in the tribe. So we're always competing with other men through your validation in order to feel like we're high up ranking on that hierarchy, right? But sometimes if we don't validate ourselves through you because of the experience we're having through you, maybe we're not doing the right thing, maybe we approached it wrong, maybe we didn't say the right things, right? Or we're just not as capable as we thought we were. Some men will start to spin the narrative in their own mind. And in the process of them spinning the narrative, this is what can happen emotionally. This whirlwind of emotions can start saying, well, you don't think about the fact that maybe this connection isn't where it is. Maybe you're not as capable as you thought you were. Let's just ignore that. We have to build this new narrative. Oh, she loves you. You're amazing. You're awesome. You're conquering the world. But in the process of you having this narrative, I also need to ignore reality. Ignore reality in the sense that I need to convince myself, right, through the process of not speaking to her, not addressing her, not getting real information about her experience or our connection or our intimacy, because I need this narrative that she does need me, she loved it, it was amazing for her, to play in my mind over and over again. But if I talk to her, I'm going to be forced to face the reality that maybe I didn't live up to my own expectations. And maybe the identity of who I'm trying to build in my mind doesn't match up with who I am in reality. But as long as I ignore her and ignore this reality, then I never have to face that music, as the saying goes, or face that actual reality, that truth. And so sometimes when guys are trying to spin the narrative in their own mind, they'll respond to you cold and distant because they need to have this identity solidified in stone in what their understanding of who they are themselves. Does that make sense? Are we on the same page, right? Okay, let's hop into our next point after the spin. Now we're going to get really deep and really, I guess we can say, psychological. Okay? So, we're going to discuss this point. Okay? So, I'll do this. And we'll do a bar here. And we'll do it like this. So I want us to talk about the concept of purpose for men, because men are always going to be driven to feel a sense of purpose in anything that they do. Especially in their relationships, they need to feel a sense of purpose. So how does a man feel purpose in terms of intimacy? He feels purpose by feeling needed, okay? If I'm needed as a man, then I'm more purposeful. Men have a need to feel needed in general, but especially when it comes to intimacy, that's the ultimate way for them to feel needed. Not just that you like or enjoy sleeping with them, but it's something that you have to have in your life. The connection is so amazing, it's so awesome that you can't imagine yourself with anyone else. I need to feel needed. It gives me a sense of purpose because for me as a man, through my resourcefulness, through the fact that people need me, through the fact that I'm valuable because of how much I have to offer that other people would in turn need me, that's how I feel a sense of purpose that makes me feel fulfilled. That's why we always say with men, it's always about actions and getting them to do things for you, because that's how they actually feel a sense of purpose, bonding and connection to you, okay? So, my purpose, right? I want you to need me, but I also want to feel useful. When I say feeling useful, I'm talking about feeling like I have to actually be there in order for you to get the benefit in this life of whatever it is that I'm giving to you. In this case, when I'm sleeping with you, the pleasure, the connection, the intimacy, the bond, right? When you make me feel like I'm useful, I in turn feel more purposeful. I also feel like I should have labeled this here, right? Because this is really value. My internal value goes up and up and up and up, right? I feel needed. I feel useful. I feel resourceful, okay? In turn, like I said, I feel valuable. It also makes me feel important, right? And it communicates to me, like we talked about earlier, what my identity is supposed to be, which I can only receive through you and your actions and response to me, right? So let's hop into after purpose. Let's talk about this concept here. Okay. This concept here is where things start to get weird. Okay. Things start to get weird at this point because there's two roads. I didn't even need to draw a car, but sure, we'll do the car. There's two roads to go on, right? We can either, I guess we can say, ready and not ready. So this is a really confusing part of the emotions that men will go through, because you're like, wait, why didn't you think of this before? Why are you just thinking about this now? After he climaxes, okay? Can I say, after he climaxes and he finishes the process of pursuing that validation, okay? It actually doesn't end there. The validation doesn't end there, but we come to a new crossing roads. This new crossing roads is when the man has to decide to himself, okay, I've now released and gotten rid of this burning desire to pursue this validation, because I've gotten some of it by actually sleeping with her now. Now that I've gotten rid of some of that need to be validated through that, I also have another part of my brain that's thinking logically and is asking myself, am I ready to do more than just pursue that validation in a short way, or am I not ready? Now, here's where things become confusing, because some men will be thinking about this before they actually go through the whole process of sleeping with you from the very beginning, because they will have understood within themselves, what are they ready for, what's important to them, what do they want in a long-term partner, even outside of their desire for them to sleep with them and be intimate with them, what do they want in a woman, and they'll select the woman that fits that criteria. Then in the process of sleeping with them, once this logic kicks in, it will all be the same as he was thinking about beforehand, and he won't have some sort of drastic change within his actions or the way he's reacting or responding to you. But then we'll have the men who are not ready. And a lot of times what happens is this stems from the trauma, because remember, I talked to you at the beginning about identity, and I talked to you about how men need you. We need you to build our own identity of who we are as men. But what happens is, if in our childhood we had a little bit of a breaking of our own self-worth and our own self-esteem, imagine instead of starting from zero and building up as a child, you're starting from negative 100,000, and how it's kind of like a sinkhole or quicksand that's just sinking lower and lower as you stand in it more. And the reason I say that is because that void, right, manifests itself because now when I validate myself through you by sleeping with you, instead of it fulfilling me, satisfying me, and making me ready to build something more with you, right, because now I'm thinking with my logical brain, I now feel a sense of, yeah, I feel a little bit of validation from her and from sleeping with her, but I need more validation. It's not enough validation. I need to go out and sleep with another woman, because even though she validated me by sleeping with me, even though it was good, even though we enjoyed each other's company, I still need more, because it's about the validation. See, this is the thing that women find very confusing. right? Because they think it's all about the pleasure. Oh, the men, they just want to climax. Oh, the men, that's all that they think about. They think with their head, they're only thinking about that. But in reality, they're not actually even pursuing the pleasure. Because if you think about it, if they were pursuing the pleasure, right, they would continue sleeping with you over and over again. Why do they even bother not just continuing to receive that same pleasure over and over again? Why do they bother sabotaging it by not talking to you, by ignoring you, by ghosting you, by stop texting you, stop answering your calls? Why do they bother doing that if pleasure is the most important thing? Because it's not. Validation is the most important thing, okay? And after he receives that validation and he uses that to help build his identity, if he has a void within him where even though you're giving him validation, he still needs more validation, you'll never be able to satisfy him no matter how much you guys sleep with each other. Because the only way for him to get a new hit of validation is to sleep with a new woman. So this is where you have these, I guess we can say here, we'll call them conflicting emotions. This is also where you'll have a lot of men seem to become distant from you, or seem to not be the same, or seem to be a little bit confused. And you'll wonder to yourself, where is this confusion stemming from? Because you seemed so sure before you were going to sleep with me, leading up to you sleeping with me. Now that you have slept with me, you seem to be really confused about what's important to you and what you want. Because when this logic kicks in, now they really have to start thinking about why are they here? What are they trying to extract from this experience? Really and truthfully, the men who are very, very confused during this time, it's usually because they haven't thought to themselves what they're even trying to extract from this experience. And they've just been pursuing that validation so hard that they never even bothered to think about what they're trying to receive from this experience. Okay, right? So let's hop into our next point after logic, okay? Then you have this interesting idea. Oops, my eraser not very good today, chat. Not very good today. Then you have this interesting idea, which because you have different types of men, you'll have different types of responses because they're in different places in their life with different mindsets. So let me kind of cover these two different mindsets so we can be on the same page, right? We'll have this first one, which you guys won't like because it's the one that kind of you might see more often, which I call stashing the gold, okay? And I'll explain to you how this works. So we'll say here, and then we'll put a little cubby over here. Okay. So I know this doesn't really make a lot of sense at first, but I'll explain how this works, okay? So you'll have some men who respond to you this way. They'll stash their gold. Remember how I said there's really two ways to go once you have that logical part of your emotions and your brain kick in after sleeping with a woman. Then you get to a point where now you really have to decide what action are you going to take based on what road or decision you want to make. Some men will stash their gold. You are the gold. When I say stash your gold, let me know in the chat here. Have you ever been with a guy and you slept with him and then, you know, it kind of fizzles out after you sleep with him? And then after it fizzles out, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks afterwards, right, a while afterwards, He'll hit you up randomly, send you a message, but he won't even say anything after he sends you that message. For example, he'll say something like, hey, what's up? I missed you so much. You'll be shocked when you look at the message. You're like, what? This guy's messaging me? I thought this guy was ghosting me. I thought it was over now. And then after he ghosts you, right, and he sends that message, you'll respond thinking that, okay, maybe he realized he made a mistake. Maybe he wants me now. Maybe he wants to talk to me. You'll talk to him, right? You'll respond to that message, and then he won't respond again. He doesn't say anything. And then you're wondering, wait, I don't understand. Why did he reach out to me? Why did he message me? Go out of his way to message me. I didn't say anything to him, only for him to not respond to me. Okay? That can be very confusing. I call that stashing your gold. Because what men are trying to do when they do that is they're trying to revalidate themselves through you, but this time, right, instead of pursuing the act of sleeping with you, since they've already slept with you, they don't need to get that type of validation, right? The type of validation they're just seeking is that my gold is still intact in my stash. Think of yourself as the gold, and think of this check-in as him checking in to see, is my stash still safe? Will I still be able to receive validation through her? Does she still want me? Does she still want to be with me? Does she still accept me? Will she still give me access to her? Remember, access is your whole being. And as long as you can confirm to me that you'll still give me access to you, that's all I need in my mind to validate myself and build my own identity of who I am. Okay? And so the reason I want you to be thinking about this is because I want you to remind yourself of this if you ever come into an encounter with a situation like this where a guy is essentially stashing you as gold, where even if he's not pursuing sleeping with you anymore, he's pursuing receiving validation from you so he can continue building up his own identity of who he is. Okay? And I want you to understand how powerful you are in that process, because without your validation, even if you're not sleeping with him after you sleep with him, you still can end up giving him that validation he needs to build it himself up, okay? Now, the other way that things can go, where's my other eraser here? The other way that things can go is like this, which is the better way. Which is the much better way. Let's do this like this. I love drawing this stuff. It's so much fun. Gold stash. Okay? Okay. So, the other way that this can work is that instead of stashing the gold, he guards the gold. Now, this comes from the men who are actually ready and have been thinking logically since before their initial desire, right, for you and for your validation. And then after they sleep with you, they realize that the pursuit of this relationship and the pursuit of you as a whole being, as a whole individual, as a whole spirit is such an important part of his life and such an amazing part of his life that rather than stash you away and just check in on you every now and again, he's going to value you and also protect you in the process of the fact that he knows that this is such an amazing experience, this is such a valuable experience to him and you, this is such an amazing bond and connection that he doesn't want anyone to have access to this gold, to what he deems to be very valuable. Now, obviously, this is what we want men to be doing. This is what we would hope would happen within a man's mind and within his emotions, right? A lot of times, depending on where he is beforehand, mindset-wise, can also drastically change how he responds when you guys finally do sleep together. And one of the things you need to be thinking about is where he is mindset-wise before sleeping with you. Because it's really gonna, I guess we can say the same way you have the and the saying that money will just amplify whatever personality you have, right? Already is the same way sleeping with a man will just amplify whatever intentions, mindset, or emotions he already had before you. If he was a toxic guy who was just seeking validation and always just running through girls in order to validate himself, when he sleeps with you, he will be 10 times that. If he's a guy who has, direction in his life, who knows what he wants, who knows what's important to him, he's going to be 10 times that after he sleeps with you. But understanding where he is in his mindset, in his spirit, in his life, right, in his career, are all the important parts of understanding what emotions he's going to go through while he's actually sleeping with you. Because yes, all men are going to have that fear. Yes, all men are going to have that feeling of I might be inadequate and I might not be good enough. And they're going to use you to validate themselves. But even after that, it's going to change their response depending on what their mindset has been since before that. Okay. Now let's talk about this topic as well that is related, but even gets more emotional. Okay. And I really want this part to hit home for you, okay? Because I want to show you why we're even talking about this in the first place. Because this is so important. Okay? This is so, so, so important. I'm drawing a key here so we can all understand each other. Okay, so this concept is actually really deep, and I want us to talk about this because I want you to be thinking about this for even after the show, and especially when you start meeting men and thinking about being intimate with them. For us as men, there is only so far we can go to make ourselves feel whole, okay? When I say feel whole, I'm talking about feel complete spiritually, feel complete mentally, feel complete as a man. Even in our identity as a man, we can't define what we are as men without first understanding who you are as women and how you fit into our identity, because you are a part of that. The reason I'm talking about this idea, this concept, is because I want you to see how much power you're wielding simply by validating a man, once by sleeping with him, but also leading up to that by validating him through your words, through your actions, through the way that you respond to him. And I want you to see how important that is to a man to even feel like a man. Because when you realize that, right, and you realize that this right here is all you, right, meaning you're the only one that can fill this space, this void here, rather than approaching your relationships with a whole bunch of anxiety, and approaching your relationships feeling like you need to be in fear of men running away from you, I want you to remind yourself that man will never be able to feel like a man until you give him validation. Now, sure, he can become in this toxic cycle where he's running to all types of women all the time for constant validation 24/7. But I want you to remind yourself, if you don't give him that validation, he will never be able to feel whole from you. And if he's not able to feel whole from you, right, then he's not going to be able to take that, build up his own ego, and use that confidence to go and pursue someone else, because I know that's what's happening to a lot of you in these scenarios, right? And I want you to also understand how much power you wield when you're interacting with a man. Don't go on your dates with anxiety that, oh my God, I need to be this for this man. I need to show him this. I need to scrub the floor. I need to do. No. Remind yourself, he's the one that needs me to build his own identity of who he is. I can actually build up my own identity, invest in myself, and the men will still pursue me because of their desire to represent who they are through me. No matter how rich a man is, no matter how much money he gets, no matter how famous he gets, he will still do the work of pursuing a woman. Never forget that. So never forget how much power you have in the fact that these men will never be able to fill this space until they get your validation. So what does that mean? You have to guard your validation with your life. I'm not just talking about opening your legs and allowing a man to sleep with you. I'm also talking about being able to validate him through the spiritual, through the mental, through the things that you say. I'm not saying you never validate a man. I'm not saying you never compliment him. I'm not saying you never give him that. But what I am saying is be protective of that and understand how powerful that is, and understand that's really what men are pursuing when they're pursuing you. So when you're wondering why, when you show men exorbitant amounts of love and you're all over him and you're smothering him, why they don't seem to respond well, or they just seem to take that and leave, it's because you're validating them so much, they don't even have a desire to receive more from you. They become overly satisfied and overly satiated with the fact that they're receiving so much validation from you. They're building their identity so well through you that they don't even need everything else that comes with it. In fact, they're like, hey, I'm extra full. I could take some away, right? I'm so full that I could turn some down. And you have to understand how that process goes in order to understand how to properly have a balance to how much validation you give men, because of how much is flowing through them and how important that validation is. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Right? Now, do you guys have any questions about what we just discussed here with wholeness, with men sleeping with you, being inside you, but also what they're going through in the process of being inside you, okay? I tried, even though I got graphic, I tried not to make it extra graphic because we still are on YouTube, okay? I didn't want to get into too overly graphic there. Are we making sense though? Because these are real emotions that men have, and I really want you to understand how identity plays a part in the ways that men will use. Where's my water bottle? I guess it's not down here. In the ways that men will use you for their own validation. I really mean that. And you also have to understand, while this sounds ugly, it can also be a very beautiful thing, because it reminds you that men actually need you, okay? Don't let the men with the big bravado, the big ego that are beating their chest convince you that they don't actually need. They do, okay? And remind yourself of that whenever you feel like, oh, well, if I don't do this and I don't do that for that guy, then he's not really going to like me. Remind yourself that he really does need you in order to build his identity, right? And even whether he wants to say it's for his own identity or for the respect that he'll gain through you from other men when they see how women deal with him, at the end of the day, he needs you in order to properly validate himself, okay? Someone says, Epitaph, okay, says you must be whole in order to find wholeness in other relationships. Don't go after red flags or immature men. Find men who are whole in themselves. Yes, I 100% agree with that. And the way to find that before you actually sleep with him, obviously, is to do a lot of the things that we talk about in the Players Club, like asking questions, like going on your dates, pacing yourself as well, not allowing yourself to fall for the trap of saying, oh, wow, we like each other on the first day of meeting each other, so let's just sleep together right now in this second, and then afterwards realizing that the connection isn't as strong as you were imagining it would be, okay? As a woman, you can elevate his wholeness, but you can't complete him. 100%, you can't complete a man, but you definitely do have a big part in making him feel whole and giving him identity. That's 100%, okay? Someone says this actually makes sense. Good. Is checking the gold pot like an ex coming back to spin the block? No, stashing the gold that's what that's supposed to be. When guys are stashing you, they're putting you away for a rainy day when they don't have their identity in check, or they feel a little discombobulated in who they believe themselves to be. And remember how I said, no matter what a man does, there's always going to be a certain space left that he needs a woman to validate him in order to feel like he has that identity of being the man, being him, as the kids say, right? And in order for him to do that, sometimes what will happen is a guy will sleep with you, then he'll stash you away, like he'll stash his gold, But instead of actually valuing you and taking care of you, he'll just stash you away so that when he comes back, he'll check in and say, hey, is everything all good in here, right? Which is when he might not even spin the block by actually sleeping with you again. A lot of times guys will just send you a message, right? And in the process of sending you a message, they'll have a little chit chat with you to see if you're still down to chat, to see even if you're still down to hang out, and then they'll flop on you or they'll ghost you again because it's not even really about sleeping with you, right? Some of the times they don't even want the validation from sleeping with you again. They just want the validation of knowing that they have access to you again, right? Because it's not just the act of sleeping that causes the emotions and it causes the need for the validation and the acceptance by you. It's also the act of having access to you that makes them feel that way. It's like everything combined into one. Does that make sense? Someone says, oh, this is a great question. Oh my gosh. What is that? VBB? We'll say, it says blessed. Okay, we'll call you blessed. It says, so that's why women shouldn't be a man's friend. Let me scroll up here. They get this from us even as friends. Precisely. That's such a great point that you made there. Precisely. It is exactly why I don't want you being a man's casual friend, because I know guys, okay? I'm telling you this right now. I'm so glad you brought this up, blessed. I know men who use women for this exact validation. They use this to build themselves up because it gives them confidence to go out and be with other women, okay? Because I always tell you guys, with guys, it's one of two things happening. If you're doing this friendly friend thing where they're just friends with you and you guys don't think that there's anything serious going on, it's either he likes you and you just don't realize it, or he's using you because he feels like you like him, and then he's using you for that validation to build his own identity up, to build his own ego up, that he can use that confidence to go and be with other women. Either way, it ends up being a waste of your time. Because why are you investing that energy into validating that man so that he can go out and be with other women, especially if you feel like you want that man? Does that make sense? Right? But I'm telling you, validation matters even more important than the pleasurable act of being together, if that makes any sense. Inex says, I don't see why we shouldn't be friends. My friend used our pictures to make someone jealous on Instagram. That's 100% fine with me. I lose nothing. I'd be happy for my friend when he finds a woman. Well, okay, Inex, ask yourself, and I want you to be honest with us here. Do you have feelings for him at all? At all? Have you ever thought about the idea of being with him? If not, does he have feelings for you? Okay. Because a lot of times one person or the other is denying their feelings for the person, which is usually where the friendship stems from. That's just what I've realized a lot of times with people, okay? Last guy I was with, I regret building up his ego just for him to leave. That's not good. I hope that doesn't continue to happen to you, okay? SNYC, I ghosted a guy after his awful performance. He thought he was amazing and kept talking about it afterwards. Didn't give him a second chance. He still texted me. So that actually refers to, Miss NYC, exactly what I was talking about of the spin. When men are going through, I told you, we're going through a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. We have this time period where in order for us to keep that identity solid, sometimes we have to spin in our mind who we are and who we are to you and what your response is to us in order to believe what we believe our identity to be. And that can be a very confusing time for you, where guys might either start crashing out, they might either start talking weird or start talking strange, they might start responding or changing the way they act or treat you because of the way they need to spin the narrative. In your case, the response that he was giving you was the bravado of like, hey, I'm the man, I did that, and you're like, no, you really didn't. But he can't hear that. He really can't hear that or think about that. He needs to keep his identity sane in the fact that he is the man. He is him, as the kids say, if that makes any sense, okay? Someone says, your friend's, Inex says, your friend's girlfriend is also your friend, only strengthens the friend group, no lost effort. Are you saying, like, if you have a guy friend, your friend's girlfriend is also your friend? It only strengthens the friend group? For who? See, now I'm concerned. Now I'm very concerned. Because who is that strengthening that for? See, this is the thing. If you're the friend and then that guy friend that you have has a girlfriend, it's very easy for you to say, oh, we're all one big family. We're all friends. We kiss and hug. Everything's amazing. We're like so cool, so awesome, never been better. It's easy for you to say that when you're the friend. When you're the girlfriend of the guy with the best friend, it's a lot different of a position. And I'll just be honest with you, because I've helped a lot of women in positions just in both sides, right? When you're the girlfriend, sometimes you end up appeasing the friend because, one, you don't feel like it's your place to call out the friendship because the friendship has been existing since before you. But also, you just capitulate to this idea that, yeah, we're all cool, we're all friends. But really and truthfully, down in your heart, you're like, oh, if he could drop that girl, I would love it. They might even hint to it that I wish he would drop that girl, right? I wish he would stop being with that girl. She might even hint it to her man, right? But she's playing nice with you because she doesn't want to seem like a mean girl, like she just came in and said, don't be friends with that girl. So you as the friend might think, oh, we're all one big happy family. But I guarantee you, if you're ever in the position of being the girlfriend, you'll start to think to yourself, I don't like that B word. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you the facts, okay? You're going to start to feel in your heart, I don't like that B word. She's sneaky, okay? She be looking my man up and down in ways, making these weird comments about my man, saying these inappropriate things, I don't like her. I'm telling you, it's different when the shoe's on the other foot. So that's why I say I don't really think it works, because when you try to create that environment, usually someone is lying to themselves in that triangle, okay? Does that make sense? Let me see here. Let me scroll up. You guys had a lot of questions today. C says, my ex tried to message me on my birthday, even though we never slept together. Is it good I didn't respond and starved his validation? Yes! That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm glad that you did that, C. And anyone else that's in that position, make sure you always starve them of that validation, because even though we're talking about this show, about him being inside you and sleeping with you, we have to mention the whole idea and concept, which is actually getting access to you and using his access to you, whether it be mentally, spiritually, or emotionally, to extract that validation and build his own identity up, okay? Because it all works together. It all works together, okay? What happens when you cut the man off fully? Someone asked. When you cut that man off fully, he finally stops being able to feed. It's like a leech, right? He stops being able to parasite actually, feed off of your validation to build his identity. And when he can no longer do that, then I don't want to say you don't serve any purpose to him anymore, but that's when the relationship obviously dies, right? Because there's no transaction anymore where he's receiving that to build himself up. It also forces him to either reflect on whether or not he was doing the right thing in the way that he was treating you, because now obviously you've cut him off and you're ignoring him. In some cases, he'll regret his actions and wish he would have gone about it a different way. Or in some cases, he'll just be like, okay, I'll move on to the next girl that I'm going to get validation from. It can really depend on your situation, okay? Real Life says, duh, I thought most women knew this. Yeah, but no. Yes, but no. Sometimes, see, the thing is, when you're a woman, you can start to hear from other women and just, in your life, even from your own mom, this idea that like, you need to serve your man. You need to do this for your man. You need to do that for your man. You need to do this and do that, hold the household down, all this other stuff, right? Cook, clean, scrub the kitchen, scrub the floor, scrub the bathroom, scrub his pee-pee, everything, right? And so you can start to build this idea that, oh my God, like the men are perfect as they come to me, and I just need to figure out how to fix myself so that I can be perfect for that man. As opposed to realizing that the men come to you not capable of making themselves whole, and they need you to actually make themselves whole. It changes your whole perspective when you approach men and when you go on dates. Rather than being in an anxious state of, I need to prove this and prove that and say this and do that, rather than saying, no, I'm here to observe and receive, and also understand that in your pursuit, you're pursuing something that you would never be able to get without me. So I don't need to rely on me being perfect, me saying the right thing, me dressing the right way. All I need to focus on is being myself, being my authentic self, obviously taking care of the things that I need to take care of to be a good partner in general. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to have the anxiety that you're running away from me, or that you're going to leave me, or that you don't want to date me, right? That's not going to be something that gives me anxiety. It just, that change in perspective will definitely change the way you approach your relationships, and also the pressure you feel on yourself to do certain things or not do certain things, okay? Flower says, I've had good male friends, but they didn't look for my validation. They weren't using me that way. Well, so let me ask you a question, Flower. When you say you've had good male friends, what was your relationship like and what did it stem from? Because sometimes, like I said, it's not necessarily even about your validation. They might actually be friends with you because they might have feelings for you. And yeah, I'll just say it like that. They might have feelings for you, and either you realize it or maybe you don't realize it, or allowing the friendship to go on because they don't know any other way of being that close to you, because they feel like if they were to say, hey, I want to date you, maybe you guys wouldn't be close anymore. Someone says he keeps returning like a virus. I'm ready to block and listening. Hey, when you're ready to block, sometimes that's the best way to go about it, okay? Melita says his best friends said exactly the same. She's not going anywhere. I dropped him. Interesting. SNYC says, but I don't understand. He didn't even get to finish. So why is he still texting me months later? I've ghosted him since that one awful encounter. It actually is a perfect example of everything that I'm saying. Men aren't even pursuing the actual pleasure of being inside you. They're pursuing the pleasure of the fact that being inside you validates them enough to build their identity. So SNYC, he's really just pursuing validating himself to build his identity. That's why it doesn't matter that he didn't get to finish. He's still looking to validate his identity through you by hopefully getting some validation, whether it be in the sense of getting a handy, being able to get you to slurp him off. Maybe he gets to put his head in between your legs. Maybe he just gets to be able to go out with you enough to have access to you again, to feel some sort of validation. They're trying to extract anything from the experience to validate themselves and build their identity. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's what that process is about, right? Someone says scrub his pee-pee. Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. And X says, you still can't get why it would be bad to validate a friend or even a random, I think you said, I still can't get why it would be bad to validate a friend or a random dude. I've had enough magic fairy dust, and that's also validation for me when I validate them. Well, for you, being a woman is different from men, and I'm not saying that it's bad to validate a man. I just want you to understand the power you wield when validating a man, through your words, through your actions, obviously through sleeping with him. And I want you to be careful, or just understand in the process of you wielding that power, that you don't just want to give it away willy-nilly, because a lot of times men will just take it, right? And they'll slurp you dry, not in a good way. They'll take advantage of the fact that you're giving so much of it, and they won't actually invest in you at all. And I want you to understand how much you're giving that man, that you might be thinking, oh, I'm giving him this to show him something, without him actually investing in you. I just want you to be aware of the dynamic that's going on and the exchange of energies that's going on in the process of this happening. So the overall idea of validating a man isn't bad in itself, but you don't want to fall for that trap that I'm validating this man, hoping that my validation is going to help him like me, only to realize that he's just using that to extract from you and then go out and then do something else with his time and energy. Okay? Does that make sense? Aset says, that's what I experienced. They find wisdom and intelligence attractive, but it also scares them, or they fumble me. And you didn't finish your sentence there. Why do some men crave the divine feminine, but fear the mirror she holds up? Well, that's a good question. I would say, Aset, the reason that some men crave the divine feminine, but they don't like the mirror that it holds up, is because think about what you just said. Divine feminine. So what do you have to be in order to actually deserve divine feminine? Be divine masculine. So if you're with an amazing woman who has invested in herself, is where she needs to be, mindset, spiritually, physically, mentally, think about what that says about you if you look in the mirror and you realize that you don't even deserve to be with a woman like this. It's a reflection of what you're not. And then you start to feel like garbage about yourself because simply you're not in the place that you should be to be with this type of woman. I wish I could show you guys this meme that I seen the other day. I need to start saving my memes to a specific place when I think of these things. There's this meme. Damn, I won't be able to find it. No way I'll be able to find it now. But this meme it's of a girl. It's not a meme really. It's truth. It's just guy truth. It's a picture of a girl. She's like looking up at a guy, like not in a naughty way. They're just out like, you know, in some place at some event, and she's looking at him, and she's like obviously like a attractive woman. And the title of the meme is like the type of girl that shows up in your life when you have no money and no career and nothing going for yourself. And the joke, really, it's not really a joke, but the whole idea is that men understand the concept of meeting a good woman who is where she's supposed to be, but then you meet her at a time in your life where you're not where you're supposed to be and your life is not together, and how that can be like a constant reminder of like, damn, I need to get some money. I need to build my life up. I need to get my life together because my life isn't together. But this woman deserves a man, or should be with a man who has her life together. I wish I could find that meme because it was just funny, but I didn't realize how it would perfectly apply to like what we're talking about today. Let me scroll down here. You guys had a lot of questions. Chat going. Someone said, let me see. Oh, Flower says, Tomisin, they were friends of mine. Then a relationship which was disastrous. And we went back to being friends, though he still wanted me, or they were gay. Wait, what? So you're saying, Flower, that these guys were friends of yours, then you got into a relationship and the relationship was disastrous? So it kind of proves my point, which is that the men are either having feelings for you, right? Or you guys have feelings for each other, right? In which case you guys had a relationship, or he's using you to validate him. So it's really like a three-headed monster, and it's usually one of those three. I don't really see it any other way where it's just like, we're just friends for the sake of being friends, okay? And next says, all clear, thanks. Just need to be careful with the power and not give when you try to extract something from him. Exactly. You just want to be careful with that power and understand the power that you have. Because when I describe what goes through a man's mind when you guys are sleeping, I know some of you are thinking, does he care? Does he have feelings? Does he like it? Is he enjoying it? Is he mad? Is he sad? Right? But I actually wanted to turn it around on you to help you realize, yes, he's feeling these feelings, but a lot of these feelings are stemming from your response to him. And he needs you to respond a particular way in order to feel a particular way about himself. Zenani, I like that name. Zenani says, how does a man's identity change as he builds it? Well, so for example, I build my identity based on how purposeful and useful I am as a man. If I feel more useful as a man, I feel more valuable as a man, because the more useful I am, the more people need me. That means that I'm resourceful. If we think about it, when we were cavemen, right? The people who were the men who were the strongest, the fastest, the best at hunting, they were the most useful to the tribe. Because they were so useful to the tribe, they were higher in terms of the hierarchy, right? They would get more things. They would be able to have access to more women, right? They'd have multiple wives. They'd also get treated better by the peasants, by all the people who were incapable. They would rank up higher, right? They ended up being the best soldiers as well. They were the most strongest and the most capable. So I don't want to say they got worship, but they got treated as such, right? They got treated as royalty. They got treated as kings and queens and princes because of their ability. So the reason I say that is because as it relates to, where'd your question go? As a man is able to see in the world that he lives in, that he is needed, that he is useful to others, he's able to use that interaction to recognize how valuable he is and build his own identity of who he is over the course of time. So let me give you a better example of that. For example, if I am able to have enough money to help people, help family and friends and girlfriends and partners that are in horrible situations, the way that they respond to me and they say, thank you for helping me, I wouldn't have been able to do this and do that without you, right? Helps me recognize, oh, my identity is someone who obviously has a lot of money, so much money that I can help other people out of their horrible financial situation. I'm able to build my identity based on the fact that I'm resourceful and useful as a man. Men always want and have a desire to feel needed, feel useful, because it helps them feel resourceful. When they feel that, they feel purposeful as a man. I serve a purpose because I am useful and resourceful to the people around me, right? That's why I always say, if you want to make a man feel valued and seen, the best way to do that is to just make him feel needed, even for mundane tasks that you don't actually need him for. Because that reminder will help him feel like a man. That's why I always say that. This woman's name is Lovex Brianna, and she has this viral TikTok story about how she ended up in the hospital. Apparently, this is kind of related to a relationship. So clearly she has a black eye, and she's sitting in a robe here, so it must be quite the story. So we'll see how this kind of all transpired, and if there's anything that we can learn from this to avoid in terms of our own dating lives, okay?
To come here and talk about pretty much what happened. Just to start, this is a really heavy source of pain for me. It's been really hectic. So basically, long story short, I'll start with the situation from when I left town. I decided to go on a trip with my mom. Originally, my sister was supposed to come on the trip. I don't even want to get into the weeds of that and make this about my sisters. I've been seeing comments and their contributions that are extremely negative. It was all relative to this European trip that we were supposed to take. They didn't end up coming, or one of my sisters didn't, and that just became its own thing, which is now why they're, I guess, showing support for this guy. I don't want to get into that. I just leave it to them and their platforms, whatever. But we were planning this trip and I booked the tickets. The reason that I did not—
What do they mean showing support for this guy? What does she mean showing support? They're showing support for the guy that gave her a black eye?
not want to go to Europe with Ronan is because honestly, I just want to be honest, because he couldn't afford it. And I know that if he was going to come out there and we were going to go to all of these beach clubs and restaurants, I was going to be taking on the bulk, if not all of the financial responsibility, as was pretty standard in the relationship, because he does not have a job. So I was going to be taking on the bulk of that, and I did not want that. So I did not.
Oh, we're on the first couple of seconds here, and we're already going down the wrong path. So he didn't have a. Okay. I'm not going to judge. Remember, we listen, we don't judge, but I do need to comment. Why is she in a relationship with a man without a, what is she supposed to do with that man? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, like, what is she supposed to do with that man? Unless she was with him, but like when he had a job and he lost the job while being with him, what is she supposed to do with a man with no job? I don't even understand. What are they supposed to do all day?
Invite him to Europe, and I didn't think it was a good idea that we even went together, because right before the Europe trip, he had gotten caught cheating with someone like down the street. It was like this big thing, and I don't want to get into that either, but I just did not. I had checked out.
He gotten caught cheating with the woman down the street. No big dealy. No big dealy.
And I stopped wanting to be with him. And that is why I stopped posting content with him. I had originally stopped posting content because I did not want to be in a relationship with him anymore. I also had a real guilt in my heart about the fact that I knew what was happening behind closed doors, and I know—
Stop posting content with him. You had him, like, you guys were content creators together?
Oh, what I stand for. I know I'm a girl's girl. I know I'm an advocate for okay, I know I'm an advocate for women and empowerment and information exchange and love and honor and all of those things. And what was going on behind closed doors with us did not align with the things that I promote and take pride in publicly. So, so I wanted to take this trip, and I ended up booking it. He was very upset that I booked it. He wanted me to take him. He wanted me to pay for him to go. At one point, he asked me to put him on my car loan so that he could take out a loan to go to the trip, and he would pay. They could use my car as collateral or something like that. I was like, no, I just want to go by myself, and I ended up going. I ended up booking this trip. My mom ended up coming because all of this fallout happened with my sisters or whatever. And on the trip, I had decided to separate myself from him. Now, I want to start with the day before I left. No, the day that I left. The day that I left, he actually tried to make me miss my flight. The entire day was physically assaulted me. He sprained.
Someone said, you guys said slow down. Sorry, I apologize. I watch stuff on like 4 times speed, but let me slow it down just a little bit for you guys so you can follow along.
My toe, I had bruises from head to toe. He just hurt me, and he just kept on physically assaulting me. And again, like, I think it was because he just didn't want me to go, and I almost didn't even make the trip. I actually was 5 minutes. I got to the airport at 4:03 and the flight left to Europe, to Ibiza, at 4:50. They told me I was originally not going to get on the flight, and I actually ended up getting on the flight because I was crying and limping and like, no, I planned this whole thing. My mom's waiting for me in Spain. What am I going to do? So they literally let me check my flight. I already checked in the car, but they let me check my bag and such, so we were good. But leading up to me going to Ibiza was hell. I was physically assaulted over and over and over again for hours and hours and hours on end, to which I made my family aware and such. And that, in conjunction with his cheating, in conjunction with his inability to provide or keep a stable job, are the reasons that I was like, this Europe trip is going to be time that I use to reflect, to cut him off. Okay, so I just want to end this part with saying
Okay. This is the part that I'm a little bit confused at so far, because she's saying that the trip is meant to kind of ease her mind, to help her reflect, to then eventually cut him off. So the action of cutting him off is not yet supposed to happen. It's just supposed to help her be in a better mental state to actually then cut him off. Okay.
Decided to go on a trip. I decided that during the trip we would go our separate ways, and the trip was for me to find myself again. And he abused me prior to the trip, like the day of me going to the trip. So it just like further confirmed that we would never work. And I made sure I called my building before I left, because I was able to get him out of my apartment. He wanted to stay when I was gone. I did not want him in my apartment, did not want him driving my car. I took my keys with me. I locked the door. That was a huge fight. Oh my God, it took me hours to get out, but I made sure, and I called down to my building for proof. I have a witness that I told them, do not let anybody in my apartment while I'm gone. There are no authorized guests. There was no authorized guests. Nobody can go in my apartment. Do not let anybody in my unit. And then I flew to Europe. Once I got on the flight, I started texting him. I was very hurt, confused, and lost. I wanted to let him know how I felt, and I kind of wanted him to feel the pain that I felt. And I was just telling him I hate him and all of these like things that women say when they're super.
Sorry, this is dark. It's not my screen. It's actually the screen of the thing here, but I'm going to do my best to try and read this. I need my glasses for this. It says, you said, it says, you act like this is ridiculous. Just keep trying to... Put on my glasses. Chat. We gotta read this. Let me see if I can read this on my other screen here. You act like this is ridiculous. Just keep running to your camera. That happened from me covering your mouth. What? Oh, so I think he's talking about a bruise. Interesting. Okay, we can go on. This is not
traumatized. So I was texting him all of those things like, you did this, and I'm so upset and whatever. He was pretty much dismissive about it. I'll probably like post the text here. And I just decided at that point and during the trip that there was no more reason for us to speak. We'd been through too much. There was too much abuse and cheating and all that stuff that went on. So I decided to sever ties. I blocked him from everything, would not let him contact me. He started harassing my mom. My mom also had to block him and tell him stop contacting her. He then reached out to my sisters. My older sister wasn't going for it. My two younger sisters, different story, but form your own opinions on that. I don't even want to talk about it. And so it was finally time for me to come home. I got to my building on July the 12th at, I believe, 10 o'clock at night. And when I pulled up to my building, I was on the phone with my dad and I was talking about how excited I was to be back. And lo and behold, he was already standing in front of the building waiting for me. I don't know how he knew what time I got in. I don't know how he knew he knew what day I was supposed to be coming back, I think, from when we had talked before. I don't know if he'd seen my ticket. I just don't know. But he knew, he timed it. He was standing in front of my apartment building waiting for me outside. When I didn't even get out the cab. He opened the car door and was like, let's go. He grabbed my bags from the cab driver and he tried to take my stuff upstairs and he told me we're going upstairs. I told him we are not going upstairs, and I told him that I did not feel safe with him going upstairs because I know that he was upset that I'd blocked him during the trip, and I knew that things were getting out of hand, and if I got alone with him upstairs in my apartment, that I was going to be further physically assaulted and pressured into things that I didn't want to do probably.
Wait, where did she say that her dad was at this time? She said something about her dad, but I just missed it because I'm concerned, like, where her parents, like, some sort of authority to at least be around. I know she's a grown woman, but she said her mom came on the trip.
So I did not feel safe with him going upstairs. We had not spoken for quite some time, and I told him he couldn't go upstairs. He had my bags in his hands. He starts yelling, shut up. He starts name calling me. He starts grabbing me. The security guards downstairs see him grabbing me. There's two security guards, and they immediately try to alleviate the situation. They're like, hey, stop touching her. She said you can't go upstairs. You can't go. There's a huge argument in the lobby. He's like, I'm going. I don't give a fuck. Tell her. Oh, I don't know if I'm able to say that on here. Hopefully that doesn't get flagged. I don't know. I've never done this before. But he's like, I'm going. I don't give an F. Tell her that, she needs to take me upstairs. I just need to get my stuff. Mind you, he had told me early on when I'd first left and we were having those text exchanges and I'd locked my door and left the house that he'd called security and they had escorted him into my house and they had already given him his property. He had gone through my apartment, got what he wanted and left. So this is all in contravention to me calling security and telling them not to let anybody in my unit when I'm gone under any circumstances, to which they agreed to. They didn't care. When I left, they went, used their master key, unlocked my unit, and let him into my apartment. And he was able to take whatever in his things. He is not on the lease, and he is not an authorized person in the building. So I don't know how and why that happened. So when he showed up, as I was coming back from the airport, demanding that I take him in my apartment to get his things, I was confused because I knew that he'd already been in the apartment with security. Allegedly, he was like, oh, they walked with me allegedly, like, to get his stuff. And I know for a fact he was in the apartment, but I don't know if he got anything. I don't know what he did. I don't know what him and security were doing. He's made friends with the security guards at the building, and I guess they had a relationship where they were taking him in my house. Long story short, security let him into my building when I was not there. So when he did come back and meet me and bombard me at the door when I finally got off my flight, demanding his things from my apartment.
Sorry, I just want to show you guys something, chat, real quick. So apparently, I can't even show some of this other stuff, but this is what he looks like.
I just want to preface this by saying I'm not.
I want to show you guys what he looks like here. Where'd it go? Right. There we go. That's the picture. Does that go bigger? I want to get you guys a good picture of him. Okay, I guess this is one. Let's see. Can we get this? This is what he looks like. Let me put this up on the screen. Yeah, so this is him. This is who she's talking about. That's her old man here. Okay, so now that we see that, we'll continue with the just so you guys can have a visual of what she's talking about, what she's referring to. Okay, let's see here. There we go.
It was strange because he already had been inside my apartment to get his things, so I don't know. I then I would not let him in. A entire debacle ensued. I told him, I finally said, hey, I'll go upstairs and get your stuff, because he was manhandling me downstairs to the point where security's had to intervene. I said, I'll go ahead and get it and bring it down, but I do not want you coming upstairs to my door. There are 3 points of security access when you get to my building. There is the concierge desk, the elevator, and once you get up the elevator, which requires key access, there's a middle door which requires further key access to the units. So I'm thinking like, okay, he really can't get to me. I'm just gonna bring his stuff back down through the elevator and just call it a day. Well, when I left my apartment and came out of residences, those middle doors, he had gotten up the elevator somehow. I don't know with the security, I don't know how, but he was standing with 2 security guards charging his phone on the wall and then causing a scene saying that he needed to get to me to talk to me. I handed him his things immediately and was like, gotta go. I turned around to leave and he starts chasing me down the hallway. Security starts chasing him. So everyone's chasing each other. It's very ghetto, very strange. And I'm telling him I don't want to have a conversation. There's literally nothing to talk about. At that point, I was over it. There's so much that has gone on. So much egregious, nefarious things that have gone on in this relationship. I did not want to talk. Security asked me in front of him, do you want to talk to him? I said no. They said, listen, sir, she does not want to have a conversation with you. You need to go. They had tried to physically restrain him because he was trying to physically attack me. And he stood in the hallway and he was just like, no, it's fine. She's good. I'm not touching her. He always does that. Like, he'll try to be like, oh, he'll put his hands on me, but like, I'm not putting my hands on you, but you are. He told them I'm not touching her, blah, blah. At that point, I like slid against the wall. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I think I have a little video clip of that. I'll try to add that to this actually. After the incident with security, they were finally able to get him to leave, and he left, though he called me all night long.
By the way, chat, I just seen on, because I'm looking on my computer to see more of this story. Her injuries, this is like not even, this is a very tame version of her injuries. The injuries that I'm seeing on here on pictures are crazy. I can't even show them on the screen. So this is not, she's not like over exaggerating, nothing coming on, showing off her black eye. Like she added some sauce to it. No. Like her, it's bad. Like what I'm looking at here is pretty bad. Okay.
He finally did leave my property. Next thing you know, I go to sleep. I wake up early in the morning. He's at my door. He's pushing himself inside the door. I open the door to see who was outside the door, and he's pushing himself inside. Apparently, he had bypassed security, or actually, I don't think he bypassed them. I think that they were in on it because he did say, which was confirmed, and I'll release all of this video footage by the security guard, that the woman downstairs spoke to him and showed him some group chat between the security guards discussing the incident from the night prior. He also did say that he was somehow able to come up. He went through the elevator, which again requires a security card. He went through the residential door unit, which requires security. And
I'm not here to make fun of him, but it does make me think to myself, it's always the men with too much time on their hands that start doing this type of BS. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've all been down bad. Okay, I'm not going to pretend like I'm better than anyone, but I've noticed that a lot of times when it's the guys that are, you know, misbehaving the most or doing the craziest stuff, it's the guys that have so much time on their hands that they actually can do this type of stuff. And also the guys that have nothing to lose. You think if this guy had like a real job or was working in, or it really had something to, oh, you guys are seeing the wrong thing here.
He got to my
Sorry. You guys are seeing the wrong thing there. But you think if this guy really had something to lose that he would be so keen on, you know, trying to get his way, even though it was very inappropriate? Probably not.
door. He pushed himself inside, and the first thing he did was try to force himself upon me. I did not want to have sex with him, and I just completely was like over it. I was obviously still upset from the night before. He did not care. He wanted to have sex at that point. I was telling him to leave. I told him I did not want him to be there. I told him several times, and ultimately, like, I guess maybe a couple hours later, like this went on for a little while, the physical fight started. It started when he picked me up and by my face and he slammed me on the couch and he called me a stupid fucking bitch. Damn, can I say that on here? He called me a stupid effing B. And then he just continued to grab grab my face in the palm of his hand, smashed his face in there, and just kept palming me, snatching me, squeezing my face. My lips are busting at this point. My mouth filled up with blood. My nose filled up with blood. He's throwing me around. At one point, he slams my head against the bathroom wall. He's spitting loogies in my face over and over. He slams my head against the toilet. He's holding me against the toilet. He's smashing my face against the toilet. He's dragging me all over the apartment. I'm actually trying to fight back. I am hitting.
Wait, so one of the questions that I have is, so if the front desk people were able to kind of like see this happening and then you guys went to the apartment, I'm assuming they're not just going to like be like, all right, let's forget it. But nobody's hearing this from your apartment? That's what I'm not saying that she's lying, but I'm just confused about that part.
I am swinging, I am scratching, but obviously he's much bigger than me. I'm like 140 pounds. I'm 5'10" though, and he is like 6'3", 200 pounds. So there was a very obviously uneven power struggle there. I continued to swing at him. At one point, I did hit him right here, and he got really mad at that. I realized the more I fought back, the more upset that he was. So he came up to me, he grabbed me by the face, literally by the face and the neck, and picked me up and slammed me on the floor. I believe that is when I got a concussion, as ruled by the hospital later on. While I was on the floor, he then punched me in the eye. My eye's looking a lot better now, but it was like really looking bad. He hit me in the eye, and then he hit me again in the face. So I'm on the floor. My face is swelling up. My nose is bleeding. My mouth is bleeding, and I can't even open my left eye. Literally, the moment it happened, it immediately started swelling, and it was just a mess. From that point, I lost consciousness, and I started shaking, and I just remember begging him to take me to the hospital. I knew that he wasn't going to let me go anywhere alone. I knew he wouldn't let me make any phone calls because he took my phone. So at that point, I just started begging him to take me to the hospital. I'm getting a lot of questions about why I'm telling the story kind of in the fashion I am. I think it's because I am someone who also watches TikTok, and I hate when people just drag things out, and I hate when people like talk really slow, and I typically watch my videos on high speed. I also feel insecure about being a burden on others and taking up people's time. I don't want to drag this out longer than it is, so I'm just trying to like tell it really fast, like get it out, and that be done with it. Okay, so I had to come inside because it was super loud out there. I was just trying to get some fresh air. So part 5. I started begging him to take me to the hospital after my body started convulsing. I had a concussion by that time, and my eye was bulging, lips bleeding, everything bleeding, nose leaking, everything happening. The reason that I begged him to take me to the hospital is because I knew that otherwise he wouldn't leave the apartment, and I wasn't going to get out of the apartment. And I kept on saying, that I'm gonna die, like you're gonna kill me if you keep me in here, because I don't know. Okay, all right, so I finally convinced him to take me to the hospital, and he said he was gonna take me to the hospital, and he starts like, I don't know, he starts looking for things, getting things. I'm like still trying to fight him off me. He's like trying to put me into little corners of my house, like sit right here, don't move, sit right here, don't move, sit right here. Like he threw me over his shoulder, he tried to carry me to the bed, put ice on my eye. I'm just like, please take me to the hospital. I don't want you to give me ice, I don't want any of this, take me to the hospital right now. He finally then walks out of my apartment with me to take me to the hospital. He grabs my keys, he grabs my phone, he's holding my keys and phone the entire time. I don't have access to it. And everyone's like, why didn't you call the police? He had my keys in my phone. He then walks out to the parking garage, and we walk out to the parking garage. I see a man in my distance that seemed like he was kind of bigger, so I'm like, okay, he might be able to help me. So I start screaming at the top of my lungs when I see someone. Finally, I scream, help, help, help. So the man finally comes over to help, and he then picks me up, throws me over his shoulder, and starts running me back towards the apartment, towards the residential hall doors to get me back into my apartment. I was like, no, I was holding on to everything in sight. I was holding on to doors, my nails are literally feel all loose. I'm like holding on to things, scratching things, grabbing everything, grabbing the floor, grabbing everything, grabbing the door frames, putting my feet in the door frame so that he could not get me into the door. Then the man comes and he's like, hey, what's going on? He starts talking to the guy. He's like distracted or something. I guess like the guy guy intervened. I don't really know. There was something happened that distracted him that allowed me to get from his arms at that point. If we were sitting right here, directly perpendicular to the elevator. So I run to the elevator. A couple is in there. They run out. I guess they're super scared. He runs in there after me, trying to grab me. I sit down. I crouch down on the elevator floor, and I grab the bar, like, I don't know, it's the support bar, like the pole or whatever. I grab it and I'm holding onto it for dear life. The guy follows us in the elevator. He's like, hey, stop, because he saw like the whole debacle on the floor with him trying to get me through the doors. And I was like, at one point I was laying on the floor. He was like trying to drag me. He was throwing over shit. He just couldn't get me through the doors back into the apartment.
Also, the front desk security, like, yeah, they might not be seeing everything that's happening all the time, but like they should be able to see, like, at least on some of the cameras, this commotion that seems to be going on, especially when someone's picking them up, putting them on their shoulder. And didn't they just have an issue with them earlier? Like, I'm confused how they didn't ever come in. What's the point of front desk security? I don't understand. If you can't have the security to help, have them help you in these types of situations, that's very confusing there.
Apartment, because I had already started screaming help and I knew someone heard me and saw me. So going back, I'm in the elevator and I'm holding on to the pole for dear life. And he's trying to pull me by my legs and grab me and pull me out of the elevator and such. The guy I was screaming for help originally, he came in the elevator. He's like, dude, let her go. I don't know what's going on. You can't do this, all of these things. And he's just like frantically pacing at the point. He doesn't know what to do. I'm talking about Ronan, because he knows like there's someone else there and he can't get me alone again. So the guy was just like, shut the elevator door, get out of the elevator. And for some reason he listened. And so the guy got in the elevator with me. Ronan left out of the elevator and it was just me and the guy. And at that point, I knew that I was going to be safe. I was going to be able to at least get to a phone and make some calls. So I was crouched in the corner of the elevator and the guy was like, it's okay. You don't have to sit down. Just stand up. Stand up. You're going to be fine. Stand up. I'm here. Just, we're going to be okay. And I was just still crouching. He was like, no, come here. Just stand up. Let go of the bar. You're fine. So I let go and I stood up and we were finally at the first floor. I walked straight to the lobby desk and I said, hey, I need you to call the police right now. Again, my whole face is dripping. So the girl at the front desk is just looking at me. Another security guard told me that girl at the front desk, she's new. She's quite young. One of the other security guards, and I have the footage, he told me that the girl was younger, she's a young black girl, she's new, and I think that he might have been also cool with her, because he was making security guards friends with them in my building. So
this is gonna make me mad. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? How do you become friends with a security guard where someone's bleeding out, bleeding from the face, and you're not? What do you mean she would? That's gonna make me really mad. That's gonna make me really mad. That's gonna get me really upset. That's really gonna pee me off in this story, because stuff like that's not supposed to happen. And what do you mean they were making? Is he sleeping with the security guard? What type of? No, all right. Namaste.
He could get access to my unit and such, that she was likely the one who let him up. So when I told her to call the police, she kind of froze and she just stood there with the phone in her hand.
What do you mean oh, girl, you're stronger than me. See, you strong. You a strong woman. You a strong woman. Because at that point, I'm surprised you didn't slap Earth, Wind, and Fire out of her. It's not even like, yo, I don't just want you to call the police. I need you to call the police at the speed that I want to see you call the police at. If your finger's moving too slow, she might have had to get a slap, because that's ridiculous.
Just looking at me. I think there's like a housekeeping knock and I got scared. Hold on. Okay, I heard a knock at my door. My heart dropped. I think I'm just gonna end this one right here. So at the end of the day, I begged him to take me to the hospital. He agreed. He took me to the parking garage. I kicked and screamed once I got to the garage because I saw other people. Again, I didn't call anyone or do anything. He had my keys. He had my cell phone. Someone helped me. I fought my way to the elevator. They helped me downstairs to the lobby. I knew I would be able to call the police from the front desk. And this part ends with me at the front desk and the girl at the front desk. I told her to call and she's kind of like freezing, just standing there like this.
He left, and then I guess he must have came back later on because I left at 12.
He came back this morning.
Okay, yeah, see, I wasn't here.
He said he talked to someone. He was like, oh, they said that there's some security guard group chat and they
That
posted a
lady,
video.
it was the lady, because when I came here, it was the lady at the front desk.
And she showed him the.
Yeah.
She said she showed him the group chat that they have with security guards or something like that. And she was like,
Yeah, because you remember I had to make.
There's a big commotion.
I think he might have been smashing the security guard, because that's not. Just because you have a little group chat with the what does the group chat do? Are they going to the club together? They popping bottles together? They drinking Casamigos together? What does that have to do with someone's in danger or clearly hurt and calling the? What do you mean she froze? Oh, see. I don't know how her dad's blood pressure ain't high here in this store. I'd be like, we moving out of that building, because that's what do you mean a group chat? What do you mean a group chat?
at the lobby at this point. I'm yelling to call the police. Other people are actually saying call the police too. The girl's kind of frozen, and she finally starts dialing the
Why aren't her fingers moving fast?
police. He runs around the back of the building, bursts in. He has no shirt on. He's sweating. He looks crazy. He's like, don't call the police. He tells the girl, do not call the police. I'm going to handle this. I'm taking her to the hospital. We're going to handle this together. Do not call the police. The girl's just looking at him. The leasing agent comes down and he's like, no, call the police. Call the police. She gets on the phone with the police. The leasing agents, some other security guards, people who work there, they took me to the back and they put me in a room. It was like the leasing office actually. And they locked the door and such. They brought me water and they said, we're going to call an ambulance. I didn't even ask for one. They just looked at my face and knew I needed one. The ambulance arrived and they said that I needed to go to the hospital to be checked out. I ended up going to the hospital. They gave me a CAT scan, MRI. I had to get IVs in my arm. It was really horrible experience. They actually gave me morphine because I was in so much pain. At that point, my eye was completely shut. It was really painful. And they also took record of my other injuries because, like I said, this has been going on for a long time. And right before I'd even went on my trip, I also had gotten abused. And even, you can't even see it right here, he had like hit me in the chest and I was already battered. So they were just taking record of all of these injuries, including the new ones, and the LAPD came. The LAPD came to the hospital. They asked me what happened. I told them everything. I told them I wanted to move forward with pressing charges. I told them that I wanted a emergency protective order, which I do have. So I do have a restraining order. I am getting it extended to the normal restraining order. He actually tried to call me while I was in the hospital. I did not answer. I told him to stop calling me. And I said, I'm in the hospital, stay away from me. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of everything. I wasn't going to come on social media and say anything, but I woke up the next day after having to go to a hotel. Now on that, the police and the hospital staff could not release me if I didn't show proof that I had an alternate place to stay. I could not go back to my apartment because now it's just considered a straight up safety issue. We don't know where he is. I know he's like contacting people and such that I know, but we don't know where he's at. He has not made contact with the police. He does not, they went to the address that I gave him. He's not there. I don't know what he's doing, but I do know that after getting to the hotel, I've been here for 2 days now. I wake up on social media and he's posting things, and
this is 2 days after the incident. Holy.
Basically how we got here. I guess I'll get into that. What he posted on social media was a supportive message from my sister. To be clear, my sister and I had a falling out about the European trip that I went on. Actually, let me make this its own video. So I wanted to speak on this really quickly. I woke up, the reason that I decided to come on social media and see something is because I woke up and he was actually responding, he was posting support for my sisters. This was literally like at 6 a.m. On his Instagram, and my friends, both on Instagram and personal friends, were sending me text messages and stuff and saying, hey, why are your sisters publicly supporting this guy? I have 2 younger sisters, Kayla and Lulu, and I was very confused too. To be very clear, and I'll post it here, me and Kayla had a fallout over her not being able to afford to come to Saint-Tropez after making all of these plans and inconveniencing me. It was very petty and it was whatever, but it ended up happening. We had a fallout. We went back and forth. Since then, she has been texting Ronan nonstop. She was giving him a play-by-play of my trip, which is why I believe he might have known where I was at. And
I don't like that. I don't like that type of talk right there. I don't like that. That's some weird, you might have to have a sit down convo with your sister, because that's some weirdo type active. What do you mean? What do you mean we had an argument? She starts texting my man. What do you mean by that? That already, just saying that out of that when you said it, that made me feel uncomfortable. What do you mean we get into an argument and then you immediately start texting anything? Why is that the first? Nah. See, I don't like some type of stuff. When I hear it, I start to feel tingly in my fingers, because sometimes there's only very weird explanations for very weird responses. Why is the first reaction of your little sister to start texting your man when you guys get into a fight about anything?
And she was just doing a lot of things that were extremely foul, and saying a lot of things that were extremely foul. She was also texting my mom during the trip saying, hey, why are you posting X, Y, and Z? She posted us dancing at the club or whatever. Ronan's really hurt and sad. Mind you, when I left, Ronan was...
What you mean? See, she's a good woman, because her reaction... Why is your little sister talking anything about what sadness your boyfriend is having or not having? What is that? What concern of that is hers?
Actually with his ex-girlfriend the entire time. So the fact that he was playing the game like that on both sides, that's crazy. He literally called his ex-girlfriend the day I left, linked up with her, and had sexual relations with her, confirmed by her. So I don't know why.
What? Chat, I have a sneaky suspicion he's putting pipe down on some of these girls to control them. Because why is the security guard acting like that? What do you mean we have a group chat? Group chat ain't enough to stop you from calling the police. Why is the little sister acting like that? That's very, what I don't know of a situation where you get into a fight, because your family, you get to arguments, whatever, it is what it is. But you get to fight, you get to an argument, and then your family is then contacting your man like immediately. Like that's one of the first things she's trying to do.
Kayla decided to come to his defense in this way or whatever. Lulu, on the other hand, and this is all just so irrelevant to me, but Lulu, on the other hand, she's literally mad at me because I'm mad at Kayla. So she came to me, cussed me out, went off on me, and was like, don't text Kayla anymore. She just blocked me from everything. And I haven't heard from her since, but she's been commenting in
That part is what it is. That's just family between family type of thing. That's whatever.
Support of Ronan too. So, I mean, it seems like it might be this situation. I don't know. Right before I left for the trip, both of them were staying at my house. They were driving my car. I've taken them on trips. I have paid their phone bills. They've lived with me before. I've literally taken them to Paris, to Amsterdam, to Europe, to Russia. I don't understand where the new animosity is coming from. I see that they're posting like, oh, my family's in support of me. Talking about them like, oh, like we love the fans. I don't know what this is about. It could be because they both want to be content creators. I genuinely don't know. It's just the least of my concerns. I don't know why after Kayla knowing, and she's texted me about Ronan before, even right before the trip, knowing what he's done and how he's treated me, has decided to.
This is Kayla, her sister, little sister, saying he's literally a demon. He's going to ruin things wherever you go if you keep letting him around. I don't know. He is someone, fruits is easy to spot, the spirit working through them. Everything is spiritual. God sets people and Satan does too. So if the little sister's saying this, why you text? Well, don't get me upset.
Take the stance, but it is what it is. And
why you calling him a demon? So why you texting a demon then? Make that make sense, little sis.
And I just realized that everyone cannot be your family. That's it. So I have distanced myself. And I'm just in this hotel. But I think that this is what she wanted. So it's not, I mean, she was texting Ronan's phone saying, let her, just leave her, let her come home to an empty house. Let her see that she's going to be alone for the rest of her life. Just all of this stuff. Like, again, I don't know what this is about. I was helping.
Why is your little sister even texting your man? That is so just inappropriate. I'm not saying that it's her fault. I'm just saying like, there's got to be more to that story because I just don't know a time or a place where a little sister would even feel comfortable texting her older. I even forgot that we're not even talking about, like the sister she's talking about is the older sister. Maybe she has her own life. We're talking about a sister younger than her. You would think the younger sister looking up to her older sister is like rocking with her, whatever she's going to do. That's a very, very, very weird response for a younger sister to, one, not take her older sister's side, especially after seeing she's hurt, but number two, to even be having a conversation with that guy. That's a very, very strange, like extremely strange, like we're missing something strange.
Her with her content creation right before the trip. We had planned the Europe trip together. She just at the last minute couldn't afford to go. She had been upset with her boyfriend about him not being able to pay for her to come to all of these places. Again, I really don't know what the issue is with Kayla and Lulu, but this is the stance that they have taken, and because they've taken the stance, I don't want to be associated with them, and I don't want to hear anything of them. I don't care what I don't know what they have going on, and they will no longer be in my life ever. These are my blood sisters, so again, it just goes to show about family.
When my sisters were posting in support of this guy, people started attacking them, and then they put their comments off and stuff, I think. And then I didn't say anything about them at all, but in response to all that, my mom texted me and she was like, having people attack your family and sisters is not okay. So I don't know. I guess ask her. She's also upset that I was public with this, and she said that I don't need to have my business on the internet, and I have her people calling her, and I need to handle this in private.
Okay, so I think that she's cut me off first because she thought that last video was disrespectful.
So I'm receiving calls from my family, and also like, first of all, let me actually start this over. I think the saddest thing for me is that like my sisters and whatever they have going on is such a minute part of the grand scheme of things, but it's like everyone's central focus. Not you all, but I guess like in my people. So like I'm receiving calls and such, and I'm seeing that they're saying like, oh, we're going to post a story time with receipts. And one thing that stuck out to me this morning on a call was like, oh, well, they can say a bunch of things about you in your past. And I don't know. That's like their narrative. Like, oh, we can say all of these things and we can tell everybody all of these things. And you've, got DUIs and you've got this going on in this. And I can post your receipts, and they've directed people to gossip blogs and stuff. Okay. Post it. Post my life. Post everything I've been through. I'm 31. I've made a lot of mistakes. I lived a lot of life. So post it. If that's what you feel like you need to do to clear your name and like justify your actions, post it. At the end of the day, again, I did not say anything wrong. I did not lie. I literally posted exactly what happened with the exact screenshots and the exact timelines per this current situation. And it was only relevant because they commented on his page in support of him and he reposted it to almost justify his actions. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be part of the conversation. They would have never gotten brought up outside of people finding them on his page and going at them. I've also been accused of sending people to their page to harass, bully, and death threat or whatever. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but let's be clear, I never did that. I never told anyone to say anything to them, and I literally have nothing to do with that. Again, they would not be part of any of this if they had not commented on his page and people sent it to me like, why are your sisters defending him? And he reposted the comments. The traffic was aimed at his page, and that was his only post at the time, was the repost of my family and their comments, as if to say like, oh, her own sisters agree with me. So it has nothing to do with me. I hate that I even have to address it, and I'm exhausted. I'm truly exhausted, y'all. Like I'm truly exhausted. I'm truly exhausted. I tried to go out with my friend today, and I just did not feel good about the way I look and all of this stuff.
What's going on, y'all?
And I'm
First and foremost, I want to apologize to.
And I feel a little bit depressed, and I literally feel like I don't know. I'm just having dark thoughts. I'm having very sad and dark thoughts. So, yeah.
Okay, chat. We're going to do something here. Okay. I'm going to, because I don't like it to just be one side. Apparently, let's see. Mr. Ronan knows. Ronan knows. He posted, I guess, on his page a follow-up, not a follow-up, but addressing the situation. So I want to see if we can get that here. It might be on here. Let's see. Love Brianna. And then we'll search it up. Let's see if we can. Let's do this. There we go. Search bar. Love Brianna. Ronan. I want to see what, because apparently he posted some videos as well. So I want to see what he had to say. Where'd it go? Ronan. Let's see. Ronan knows TikTok. Let's see if we can find. I want to see his post. I think it's on here.
Listen, for models, don't overstress yourself about.
He posted it, but I don't know. He must have posted it and deleted it, because I see someone commenting on it here, but I don't see.
What's going on, y'all? First and foremost, I want to apologize to Brianna. This entire thing has gone absolutely way too far. No matter how many fights we have been through, whether it's me, you, or anything in between, this is ridiculous. I'm absolutely heartbroken.
So let's talk about it. Now you want to apologize. Now it's gone too far. Now it's ridiculous, but.
What's going on, y'all? First and foremost, I want to apologize to Brianna. This entire thing has gone absolutely way too far. No matter how many fights we have been through, whether it's me, you, or anything in between, this is ridiculous. I'm absolutely heartbroken.
So let's talk about it. Now you want to apologize. Now it's gone too far. Now it's ridiculous, but it wasn't too far when you blackened her eye. It wasn't too far when you gave her a concussion. It wasn't too far when she was in the emergency room. It wasn't too far when you turned her family against her. That wasn't too far, right? But now that you are being seen for the creep that you are on the internet. Now it's gotten out of hand and it's too far and it's ridiculous and you want to apologize. No, it doesn't work like that. Keep your hands.
I'm not DL. They seen me.
What's going on, y'all? First and foremost, I
So
want to
apparently this is one of his apologies here. Okay, I found it. Let's just see what he had to say. I guess he went on live and he apologized for himself. For what had transpired. Let's see here. There we go.
Hanging around Jason and shit when I first got into the industry and shit. He was on bullshit. He was doing strange shit. He's a lovely guy though. You know what I'm saying? I just, you know, we fell out. It was no weird shit. If he ever disrespected me.
No, he's not apologizing about that. I wish I could find a video of him actually. He's obviously deleted everything, so he's not trying to be online. I can't find anything of his other responses, but it's okay. Quite interesting. You know, I think we start off here trying to just think about, like, in terms of not dealing with, obviously we're not going to victim blame here. But it is quite interesting. Whenever I hear really crazy stories like that, it always usually starts with a guy with no job and a lot of time on his hands. And that's why I always advise you guys, like, do not deal with these guys who have nothing but time on their hands, because as much fun, see, the same thing that'll make you laugh, same thing that'll make you cry. For example, like, I know a lot of you, like, when you start dating someone, you're like, hey, you love the feeling of the guy being all into you, being able to stay on the phone with you till 4 a.m. and things like that. But what you'll come to realize as you mature is that the guys who can stay on the phone with you till 4 a.m. all day, every day, talk to you, text you 24/7, never give you a breath away from them, those are the guys who have the most time on their hands. And the guys who have the most time on their hands generally have very little direction in their life. And for men especially, they need to have their mind occupied on things to do, or else their entire mind will be occupied on you. And while having a crazy man, it sounds fun at first, when you realize that he's like so crazy that it's toxic, it's not fun anymore. You know what I mean? And I'm not blaming her or anything like that. I'm just saying something to take from it is, you know, like I said, if he had a job, he wouldn't have the time or the energy even to be doing that type of BS, to be waiting out for her all day, all night until she comes back from her trip and her vacation, and to be doing all this group chat with the front desk and all this other BS. This is guys with too much time be doing all that type of weird stuff. But I hope she's okay. I hope she's feeling better now, because that we're late on that video, but I hope she's doing better now. And I don't know what the new status of her relationship is with her family, but I hope it's gotten drastically better. Okay, chat? All right, let's hop into our next segment of the day, which is a very special segment. It's a very amazing time. It's an awesome time. It's a time where you're going to laugh and you're going to cry. Don't look at your clock. Don't look at your watch. Don't look at your phone. Don't look nowhere else in your entire home. If you don't know the time, I'm going to tell you the time. Are you ready? Y'all ready for this? I wish I could have fairy dust sprinkling down. I need some music. Sound effects. Music, sound effects.
Okay, all right, chat, let's get started with our Discord time here. So, Discord time, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, is where all the lazy members of the Players Club community get an opportunity to ask me a question about their relationship or their situationship, and I answer it live on the show. For those of you who are wondering how to send me a question, you can do that by going to the link in my description and clicking where it says Players Club Discord. It might be at the bottom. Okay, and when you click that, you'll be able to pop into our Discord and ask your question in our relationship advice forum section. And something played. Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear a noise when I clicked that on my thing? Because I can't hear anything. Now, for those of you who are wondering how it goes when you drop your question into the free relationship advice forum, it is a first come first serve forum. So obviously we have a lot of questions here, and this is actually not even correct. There's multiple guys See? Okay. There's multiple that I still haven't answered yet, even though these aren't highlighted, but it's going to take me a while to get to your question if you ask it today, because I'm just coming back from hiatus, so I have a lot of questions to answer. So if you don't want to wait so long for your question to get answered, you can also drop your question into our premium relationship advice section, which is basically a skip the line pass where when you donate to the show, you get an opportunity to get your question read out before I go into the free section. So the way that this works, if you go into the link in my bio where it says premium Discord relationship advice, you click that, it'll prompt you to donate to the show. With your donation, it'll ask you to put in your username in the title of your question. And then once you send that in, you'll be able to get the ability to skip the line and I'll read your question out before other people's. And obviously it keeps it fair to everyone because that means that your question is supposed to be there. The other way for you to submit your question, I have to scroll all the way up, is to submit your question to the private relationship advice form. The way that this works is if you don't want to put your relationship information out there, you can send it into the private relationship advice hotline. When you send it in to me, I am the only one that sees it. I'm the only one that reads it, and then I respond with a voice message to you, usually around like 8 to 10 minutes long, sometimes 20, depending on how detailed your situation is. And no one else gets to see your question, but you'll still get it answered by me. Okay, let's hop into our first question of the day. Make sure I'm not skipping anything. So we read that yesterday. We also did easy yesterday. And also, this was an update for E. Okay, so E, I will read your clarification update on my own time, just to keep it flowing so that we can get to everyone's thing. Okay, so I'm gonna try my best to see where the last time I did a question was, because these are not in the right order. Let me see here. I kept it. Okay, so that was answer. I think we might have ended around here. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we'll start off with this one, which comes from Jamie. So Jamie says, kind in person, kind of creepy over text. Should I say something or pull back? Hi, Thompson. I am a single 20-year-old female, and I volunteer at a hospital that has a coffee shop. 3 months ago, I started low-key flirting with the 24-year-old male barista, basically just being friendly, curious, and making eye contact. After about a month of seeing him occasionally, he casually asked for my number. He began flirting with me over text. I flirted back for one conversation, but after thinking on it, I realized I do not want to rush into anything and turned down his request to hang out outside of the. Oh, someone said robot voice. Look at the chat. What's wrong with my voice? Someone said get out of the robot. Oh.
I had an effect
on my vocal
that
literally
says robot. Was that what that was every time that would happen? I remember you used to say that. Okay. Anyways, better now? Better now, chat? It's funny. Now that you guys brought my attention to the pad, I think every time that robot voice was happening was because I had that clicked on the pad. Because now I'm actually seeing it. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, good. Okay, so we'll restart the question. Kind in person, kind of creepy over text. Should I say something or pull back? Hi, Thompson. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I volunteer at a hospital that has a coffee shop. 3 months ago, I started low-key flirting with the 24-year-old male barista. Basically just being friendly, curious, and making eye contact. After about a month of seeing him occasionally, he casually asked for my number. He began flirting with me over text. I flirted back for one conversation, but after thinking on it, I realized I did not want to rush into anything and turned down his request to hang out outside of the hospital. Here is the issue. He flirts with me over text in ways that make me really uncomfortable. Say what now? It feels like I'm texting with a completely different person than the one I have thoughtful conversations with in real life. Here's the most extreme examples of the weird and pineapple-y suggestive flirting, but I have a few more. 2 days ago, I was on my break and we were supposed to have lunch together. While I was waiting, he texted me saying he was going to Walmart to get a fly swatter for the coffee shop, and asked me if I want to come. Okay. Since I haven't known him for that long, I declined, saying I'd be leaving too soon and wouldn't be able to. He followed up with, "Is that it, or are you just scared?" I replied jokingly, What are you planning on bringing me to a second location to unalive me? He said, if I was bringing you to a second location, it wouldn't be to unalive you. Smirk face. Okay. I could not believe he said that. I responded, okay, yeah, you go by yourself then. A minute or two later, he tried to save the joke by saying the second location would have been to get ice cream. But by that point, I was already pissed. He would think it was appropriate to joke with me like that. I haven't responded to any of his double texting. In person, he does not act like this. He flirts, calling me cute, asking to compare hand sizes, saying he's going to think of a pet name for me, and remembering and bringing me a small gift on my birthday, which feels more harmless. And we still have those fun, thoughtful conversations. Some of our text conversations are also nice, regular flirting, I understand. But the weird, suggestive flirting has ruined most of it for me. I like our in-person dynamic. I want to stay friends, but I fear that the way he texts me, always testing my boundaries, never a serious conversation, shows that he does not respect me. And furthermore, that he is not a good person. What is the best way to proceed from here, Tomisin? Update. I ended up talking to his coffee shop coworkers who are 19 and 27 respectively, privately about the flirty / suggestive / creepy way he's been texting me, and they were completely shocked in disbelief because he is a quiet guy. Apparently, he has confessed to them that he likes me. I am exactly his type. Skin tone, hair, eyes. Basically, you got everything. That's what you're saying. You're the whole package. But he also has told one of them that he is worried I might not be as freaky and pineapple-y as he is. I was stunned to realize that had been on his mind. For context, I don't want to have pineapples before marriage, which is perfectly fine. So I already know that we are not on the same page when it comes to what we want in a relationship. By the way, when is the best time to tell a guy that you don't want to have pineapples before marriage? I'll let you know that in a second. I even asked one of his coworkers straight up, does he actually like me or is he just horned up? She said she told him, don't rush into anything because you're horned up. And he replied that it wasn't like that. And if it was, he would have been dating all these years. He hasn't dated anyone since one girl in high school. Both coworkers recommended I talk to him directly and tell him that the things he has said has made me uncomfortable and that I prefer we stay friends. What's your advice? So this is another update. I had a conversation with him. He was very apologetic and admitted that he regretted sending that text when he did. He also admitted that texting version of him was him being more comfortable than the real him when I asked. He also somewhat confessed he had feelings for me, saying that he wanted to get to know me better as a friend. However, he wants to keep flirting with me because nothing else is off the table, which he worded like a question. Okay. In response to that, I told him I don't want to get into a relationship and that I don't want to lead him on. I also ended up telling him that I don't want to have pineapples before marriage because I thought that would be the best way to get him to stop thinking about me and pursuing me in a pineapple lens. I don't know if that works. Since then, he has changed for the better. However, he is still flirting with me. The flirting is more subtle, just compliments. I don't tell him off every time he compliments me. I just say thank you and don't reciprocate the flirting. He also texts me more often, but now we have good conversations, like over text. The main concern is, am I leading him on by still continuing to hang out with him one-on-one in the hospital for lunch and then visiting to converse once he closes the cafe every Sunday? Even though I turn him down when he asks to hang out outside of our workplace, do I need to clarify things with him again and stay only friends with him, especially if I want to date other people? How should I proceed? Do you have any tips on how to keep platonic friendships with men? You're not going to like my answer on this. On a completely unrelated note, how should we deal with men trauma dumping on the first date? Okay, so let me answer one thing at a time. Let's start with this guy. First of all, okay, if you've decided that you don't want to be with this guy and that he's not the guy you're looking for, then there's no point keeping a platonic friendship with him. Here's the thing that's happening as it relates to him. He's at work, okay? So it's convenient for him to flirt with you because you work in the same hospital of the cafe that he's in, so you're already there and you look good, you're attractive. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to become like his work wife or his work girlfriend, as we can say, right? Where he's flirting with you and having a good time with you because he's already at work. So it's like he gets to have the best of both worlds. He gets to see you, flirt with you, talk to you, but also be at work at the same time. The reason I'm saying that is because, like, what is the purpose of what we're doing here? Okay, you don't need to be spending any extra time or energy at your workplace, right, that you're not getting paid for, especially with someone that you're not planning on being in a relationship with. Because the reality of the situation is you have to ask yourself a real and honest question, okay? Think of the type of man that you want. Think of the character traits that you want in that man. Then ask yourself, if you were to sit down with that man and tell him there's a guy who wants to date me, who thinks I'm attractive, who's asked me out before to hang out outside of the workplace, and he, sees me all the time for lunch during my breaks when I'm at the hospital, and you were to tell him that, do you think that man would say continue doing that, or would he say that's inappropriate? If I'm going to be with you, I don't want you talking to that guy anymore? And I'm pretty sure you know the answer to that question, right? Most guys are going to say they don't like that. They think that's inappropriate. But so then what's the point of what you're doing then? Because if you're trying to prepare yourself for the man of your dreams, your eventual husband, you might as well put the things into place that you know will make you a more palatable and suitable partner eventually when that time does come, rather than having this ongoing friendship that's not a friendship because he secretly likes you and wants to date you, right? That you know is inappropriate, that you also know if the guy that you were seeing were to find out, he would not want this to continue on. So there's really no purpose of what is happening here, because it's going to have to come to an end anyways if you want to get serious with someone else. So might as well take care of it now. Now, see, this is the thing. I'm not saying guys in general are bad to like have as a friend. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying guys just flat out as a friend are horrible people. But what I am saying is when you have on a reoccurring basis a friendship, you're talking to him 24/7, like every single day. You're seeing him basically every single day, or at least 5 days a week when you're at work, right? Then it gets to a point where for sure your man or your eventual man is not going to be okay with that type of relationship, friendship, okay? He's going to have a problem with that. So why even have these baggage friendships that make men kind of wary of you when they meet you, or make men feel like maybe this isn't the girl I want because maybe she might have a thing going on with this guy? Why have that, right? For what? Because you don't want to even be with this guy. So my thing is, don't bother continuing to keep this and build this friendship up. You could build a friendship like this with a girl that you could have this friendship for the rest of your life, as opposed to with this guy that you're going to have to cut off anyways when you start building a relationship with the new guy. On top of the fact, I never want you to meet a man, have your existing criteria, and then he has a different way of living his life, and then you say, okay, well, I know I wanted a man who was like this and like that, but even though you're not like that, I'm going to change my morals and values so that we can be together. You don't want to do that, because you'll end up arguing back and forth with him to change the way that he is fundamentally, even though that's who he was from the beginning. So what I'm specifically referring to is the fact, Jamie, that you do not want to have pineapples before marriage. That's fine. Those are your morals and values and standards, but he is not of that same way of thinking. So the best thing for you to do, rather than argue with him or try to change his mind or waste your time going along with this, thinking that as you guys go along with this, maybe he'll change his mind eventually, best thing for you to do is just to say, we are misaligned. I have no problem with the way you want to live your life, but that's not the way that I want to live my life. And I'm going to find someone, a man, who already has the disposition the same as me, rather than me having to meet a guy and convince him to have my same disposition or approach to life. Okay? Does that make sense? Alrighty. Let's hop into our next question here. So if we started from there, then we go into... make sure I'm in the right place. We got screenshots. We got everything here. All right. So we did Jamie. Now we have EBS. Okay. So EBS says, how to discourage certain kinds of compliments. I'm a 28-year-old woman, single and dating guys. I find it difficult to find the balance between accepting compliments but discouraging flattery without seeming like I can't take a compliment. I adore a genuine compliment, especially about my personality as opposed to my looks. I always make sure to accept those well and generally react in a way that encourages him that that's the behavior I like. I hate it when guys flatter me or try to give me way too many compliments. Compliments that are only ever based on my appearance. I lose interest as it's low effort and it generally gives the vibe that he's only interested in my physical. I need help to find the reaction that doesn't seem like I can't take a compliment / that I'm arrogant, but I think you might say genuinely shows him that flattery / compliments solely about my body don't impress me and he needs to step up his game or move along. So EBS, here's an answer that doesn't sound like an answer because it doesn't address what you're actually asking me, but I'm going to tell you this anyways. I don't want you to try to control what he says or how he says it. The reason for that is rather than trying to mold his compliments or the way he expresses himself to you to be more like what you want, I want you to observe how he desires to express himself to you so you can use that as a way to sniff out what he's really about. Okay? Because that's the real thing that you want to be doing, right? You're really saying you don't want to waste your guys. You don't want to waste your time on certain types of guys that will approach you in a certain type of way that doesn't align with the type of relationship you even want to be building. That's fine. But I also want you to recognize that if that's the case, you want to allow those men to speak freely, speak their mind freely of their history, their life, their approach to life, their approach to you, their desires for you, what they want in this relationship, so that you can take all that information in and make an actual good, educated understanding of how does he really feel about me? What is his real desires and intentions with me? And using that as good information to come to that conclusion. The problem will lie if you start trying to control very early on exactly what he's saying and exactly how he approaches you and exactly what he says to you. Maybe you'll get happy because the guys will talk different to you. They'll give you the type of compliments you like to hear. They'll say the type of things that you like to hear. But understand what you're really doing, EBS. You're training men to tell you what you want to hear. But that actually doesn't benefit you. That benefits the men. Because when they tell you what you want to hear, it's easier for them to trick you for a longer amount of time that they are who you want in a life or in a relationship. But then what happens is after you sleep with him, right? After you're intimate with him, now all of a sudden, all of the stuff that he was doing that was in line with what you wanted changes a little bit. And now he's not saying exactly the same thing. Now he's not doing exactly the same thing, right? And now slowly but surely, it's unveiling and unraveling that he's a different person and his approach to you is different and his desires for you is different and his intentions with you are different than what you initially thought they would be. Okay? I don't want that for you, but I'm nervous that if you do too much in terms of like telling them, hey, I want you to compliment me like this, I want you to talk to me like this, you're actually going to do yourself a disservice in the end. I know it sucks when you're hearing that, but when you're hearing that from the guys, use that as your observation to say, oh, so I know how you really feel. And then you can act accordingly. Okay. Let's hop into our next question. Where'd it go? Where was my highlighted question there? Okay. So we did EBS. Now we have Gina was deleted. Okay. Let's see here. We have Kwai? We'll say Kwai. Okay, Tinder, white collar, chocolate man. I've deleted my dating apps now. What? Okay. Hi, Thompson. I'm 32. I started dating a guy on Tinder who's 30 years old. Okay, apparently he's a white collar chocolate man. Okay. Our first date was to a concert to see the Scared Souls. Does anyone know what band that is? I don't know what band that is. I've never heard of the Scared Souls. Is that rock? What genre of music is that, chat? We got food after and I had such a great time. After this, he continued to ask if we were exclusive. Wait, we're on one date. What's going on? I didn't know about your rules yet, but I'm just honest. So I let him know I date one man at a time. He said he'd probably only be dating me because he's interested in me and wants to pursue me. Cool. Yeah, cool. Our second date was a week later to a bookstore where he bought me whatever book I had interest in and added a suggestion of his own. So let's pause for a second. My question and concern is, so you met this guy on Tinder, but the whole idea of Tinder is not just that you swipe right and you date someone. It's that even after you swipe right and you date someone, you're still able to swipe right and date more people. So my question is is he trying? So, because I hear this all the time and it becomes a trigger for me because I know it's untrue. Is he trying to convince you that he met you and, you know, okay, maybe you're not the first person he dated off of Tinder, but now all of a sudden he doesn't want to date anyone off of Tinder anymore, and he doesn't want to swipe anyone off of Tinder anymore? Did he say he's deleting the dating app? Because to me, that's just a flat out lie, and it feels like a manipulation. Because most of the time, especially on a first date, when people just meet you off of a dating app, they're not meeting you off of the dating app and then immediately deleting the dating app. So let's be so for real. Okay. Also, great. That following weekend, I had a trip to New York. He says he got the flu and works as a scheduler in a supply and demand company for medical equipment. He also has an Australia project that causes him to have work in the evenings as well. His texts were scarce, and we only spoke on the phone once in a while for about 4 to 5 days. Prior to my trip, I knew he had to go to Virginia the weekend after to take his cousins to the Dominion. Anyone who's been texting and trying to, taking his cousin to King's Dominion, anyone who he's been trying to text and call, okay? I dryly responded, I'm waiting for our next date. Is it too soon to just cut out all communication? We haven't had a date or plans for a date in 2 weeks due to this circumstance. One call, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, I'll let you choose. Should I cut my losses? No pineapples were involved. We haven't even had our first kiss. My fear is breadcrumbing just so he can keep the door open. He lives an hour away. He says things like he likes how I make him feel, the significance in a connection between him and I, and the two women he'd been engaged to isn't lost on him. Wait, why did you sneak that in? Why did you sneak that in? Wait, why did you not mention this earlier why did you sneak that in? Why did you sneak that one in there right there? The two women he'd been engaged to isn't lost on him. When did you find that out? Why is that not at the top? That he's been engaged to two? Why did those situations end? Do you have the answers to these questions? Why did he get engaged to two women and that nothing came of it? We have to answer these questions immediately. Why are we not answering these? I can't help but wonder if he's running game for emotional validation. This is the answer to that question. Getting an understanding of what transpired here is the answer to that question. Again, no pineapple-y banter. It's been PG between us the entire time. Also, he spent a year and a half single after the last engagement broke off, is what he says. He planned an ice skating date for Friday, but hasn't given a time, so I'm just waiting to see what his next move is. Does his behavior raise red flags to you? This raises red flags to me. Okay. I'm not saying that people can't go through situations and circumstances, but you have to have a sit down conversation about this situation here. Okay. You should not feel comfortable talking to this man until you get a clear understanding of the timeline of these engagements, what transpired leading up to them, and what transpired afterwards that caused the relationship to fall apart or deteriorate to eventually end. Right? Meaning they called the engagement. Because it's one thing to say I was dating someone for a long time and then we broke up. That's one thing. It's another thing to say I was dating someone for a long time. We were on the same page to the point where we decided to get engaged and take our relationship to the next level. Then throughout our engagement, our relationship rapidly deteriorated to the point where we no longer were engaged. And that happened twice, not one time with one woman, 2 times with 2 separate women. Now you really need to be on the offensive in terms of getting an answer for why at least on your end, were your engagements falling apart. You need to get an answer like in totality of like why these 2 engagements fell apart, but you also need to directly get an answer from him of what is happening within you that is making your relationships or your engagements fall apart or deteriorate. What are you taking accountability for in these situations that is causing this situation to happen? And are there any parallels between what happened with the first woman that you, broke off the engagement with and the second woman that you broke off the engagement with? And you also need to, in the process of listening to that story, be asking yourself, am I noticing some parallels here between what happened with the first woman and the second woman? And then you don't need to ask him, but you need to ask yourself, is he actually making a change on these things or making an adjustment on these things, or are these things left to the same, right? Is he doing the same things that he's been doing there? And this is where you're going to bring in your own observation of how he's been with you to get a sense of, hey, is this behavior fixed or is this behavior still a problem? Let's just say, for the sake of example, right? He's like, one of my issues was whenever I would get upset, I would just get so cold and so distant that my fiance wouldn't know what's going on with me. And it caused us to have more distance. And the more distance we have, we stopped talking. We basically were like have roommates when we were living together. And then it just made our relationship fall apart. Let's just say, for the sake of example, that's the same thing that was happening in both situations, right? Then, from your observation with him, whenever you guys have been in a fight or argument, he'll like go ghost for like a week. You know what I mean? Or just not talk to you, be extremely cold, like you won't hear anything from him, and then he'll return back and be like, yeah, I apologize, right? Let's just say, for the sake of example, that's the case. That's an example of, hey, you probably don't want to continue pursuing this relationship or investing in this, because what likely is going to happen is the exact same reason that he broke off the engagement, or the engagement got broken off with the other two women, is the exact same reason your engagement is going to get broken off, if you even get to that point, because it doesn't seem like he's actually worked on those things, right? Do you get what I'm saying? The other thing that I'm concerned about is, for someone who's been engaged twice and lost, and the engagement didn't work out twice, I'm interested to see what his relationship with the dating app is now. And I don't know if you've had this conversation with him, but how many dates has he gone on from the dating app? And of the dates that he's gone on from the dating app, how have they ended up? Good or bad? Why or why not? Why does he feel like you are the one that he wants to say, you know what, no more dating apps for me, I'm just dating you? You should get a real clear understanding of that before you continue taking, this situation seriously, because this is really, really, really concerning to me. And I will not let you rest until you get clear, concise answers on this. Okay? Let's do another one here. Another one. Okay. This is from Baked Potato. Baked Potato. Okay, I like that name. You baked. Okay. Boundaries in relationships. If I've slept at my boyfriend's house multiple times, like over 10 over the course of 7 months, and he's only slept at my house like 3 times, is it too late for me to set the boundary to stop sleeping at his house? And how do I do so? For context, his family is very nice. And wait, how old are you? And he has his own space and his own room. But I share my room with my little sister. How old are you? How old are you? So when he comes over, he has to sleep on the couch, and sometimes he gets woken up by my dad at 4 a.m. when he leaves to go to work. In order to get to his house, I travel over 2 hours by train across the city, but he has a car to travel around. I want him to work harder for me, even if my home is not as comfortable as his, or at least put an effort into seeing me by choosing to drive over to my side of the city. Is it too late to set the boundary if I've already been to his house a lot? Because he'll think I'm changing or being inconsistent. Say, this is one thing. Okay, he's your boyfriend, right? So you can have open, honest conversations with him. The best way to approach this is to sit down with him and say, look, I appreciate you, trying to put your best foot forward in the relationship and trying to be accommodating when I come over. But I'll be honest with you, it is a bit strenuous on me to travel over 2 hours, where you said you go by train, right? Travel over 2 hours by train, and I'm always taking the train to come to your place. It would be much easier on me if you could come to me, and let's say, even if you don't sleep over at my place like you usually do sometimes, because I know it's tough when you're sleeping on the couch, maybe we do a thing where we organize being together for like the day. So like we'll start off in the morning or something like that. You come over, we'll get to spend the day together, and then you can go back at night, and it'll be much easier on you because we'll get to spend quality time together, but also you won't have to sleep on the couch and be woken up in the middle of the night and all that other stuff, right? Because there's nothing you can do about your place being less accommodating because your parents live there. It's not your place. But you also don't want to be doing so much work, always taking the 2-hour train, which I completely understand. The other thing that you guys can do in terms of compromising when you have this sit down conversation, because he's your boyfriend, so there's nothing wrong with having a conversation about it, is you can start saying, hey, maybe instead of me going 2 hours, right? maybe I go 1 hour, or maybe we go to an Airbnb or a hotel that's in my area that I can just easily take an Uber or something close, and then we can spend time there every now and again, maybe, right? Or like we mentioned, if money's an issue, then when you drive over, we just spend the day together. That way we don't have to be in the house, or if we are in the house, it's not like, hey, you have to sleep and then my parents are waking you up and things like that. That would be a much better compromise where it's understandable. Like, of course, nobody wants to be going 2-hour trains all the time, but you also want to compromise and make sure that everyone's satisfied and you also don't feel like you're overextending yourself without that being given in return, which I'm sure if he really cares about you, probably the only reason why it's skewed more towards you being at his place is because his place is more accommodating. But if you guys can be more, I guess we can say, planning ahead and be more meticulous with the way that you guys plan, then you guys can definitely set up an environment where he can come to you without having to have the downsides of coming to you and getting woken up in the middle of the night, if that makes any sense. Okay? All right, chat, that's the show for today. For those of you who have any questions for me, you can feel free to ask them, whether it be in the premium section, the free section, or the private section by sending your question in to me directly. I will be back on tomorrow. Should be on around the same time, like 3 p.m.-ish, kinda. Hopefully I won't have any technical difficulties. I want to try and get my Twitch up because I've been trying to go live on Twitch for a while, but I'm just kind of having to figure it out. So hopefully I'll be able to figure that out by tomorrow. Until we meet again tomorrow, I bid you adieu, sayonara, hasta la vista, adios, ciao, salam, arrivederci, baoni, bon voyage, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST. Hopefully, probably. You'll see it when you see it. I'll announce it in the Discord. Make sure you're in the Discord. Okay, I love you so much. All right. Have a good rest of your night.